Iris, can you tell us a little bit about how the Conservancy was founded and how it works with the HOA?
Okay, sure. And so we are a little bit of an unusual model. And the reason why the Conservancy exists is Willowsford as a community is 4,000 acres. So it's a very large property. And we are located in what is called Loudoun County's transition zone. And the county zoning actually specifies that 50% of the community has to be open space. And obviously there would have been other choices like to put a golf course in or have open space in other ways. But the developer at the time decided that they wanted to basically keep the open space in larger areas and then hand it over to Conservancy, because obviously an HOA having to manage 2,000 acres, that would have been a lot. So they consciously wanted to keep the open space together, put a trail system in, and then have the open space available for the community. So that's how we were founded. And we are very lucky that in the founding documents there are also funding streams that support the Conservancy's work. A major part of our funding comes from resident assessments, but there are also builder-generated funding streams. And we also generate part of our own income. We have a 300-acre farm, so we have a CSA share program that generates a lot of income. But a lot of it is resident-funded, and so obviously we also then in return serve the residents. We provide recreational opportunities, we have trails, we have campsites, and the farm, and then also educational programming. And so we work in very close partnership with the HOA. And for example, like educational programming. So most of the nature and wildlife programming is usually generated through the Conservancy. We work very closely on land management because when you look at the map of Willowsford, a lot of the homes are actually integrated in the open space. So a lot of residents actually look out onto woodlands or wetlands. And so we work with the HOA to make sure that residents have the appropriate aesthetics around their home. For example, we may maintain a natural meadow, but the HOA would more like bi-weekly, they would mow a buffer strip around it. So that gets the residents both. You know, they have a more formal area that is adjacent to their house, but then they also have the open space right behind their home. So yeah, it's just.
And so can they go into that Conservancy area behind them and plant a little and work with you?
That's a great question. So, so first of all, we have, and our board actually signed a resolution that on Conservancy open space we can only plant native plants, which is great, and we do that. Every now and then residents approach us and say, you know, behind my house is Conservancy open space, which obviously is here for the entire community. But they say, you know, I'd like to plant some more trees, or maybe frame my view, or maybe, you know, kind of take out some invasives and put something native in there. And then we enter into a formal agreement with the resident and say, you know, you're allowed to plant native plants. And so we ask the residents that they come to us with a planting plan. We look it over, we make sure all the plant material is appropriate. We allow the residents to implement the planting plan. And then they donate all of that back to the Conservancy. So it's on our land. Basically, we kind of own the plant material at that point, but it's for the benefit of the resident because they were able to accomplish whatever they were trying to accomplish near their house. Obviously, it's you know, we have a process we go through. It has to benefit the community as a whole, and it has to you know, conform to some guidelines. We also had a really great project just recently where several of the homeowners approached us and they said, you know, they had a piece of grassland we were maintaining, and they said, could we plant trees? And so the homeowners on the street got together, they purchased trees, they put the trees in the ground, and then they donated it back to the Conservancy. So that's a great way of reforesting little pieces here. And we also do our own land improvement. We have several riparian plantings in the 4 villages. We do reforestation when we can. You know, we're going over to the native meadow. We do wetland restoration, and then whenever we have these projects, we also try to do education programming, and we also interpret it so the residents understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then we use it for education programming if it's feasible. So.
Do the landscapers that you hire to do everything, they understand what's going on, so they're more in tune with it?
Actually, so the HOA has a set of landscapers they work with. The Conservancy, over time, we have actually by now I think brought most of our maintenance work in-house, and for a variety of reasons. One, because as you know, landscaping, we have to compete with the weather, and we also maintain trails and open space, and so we want to make sure that we can be responsive, that we maintain, that we have quality work for the residents. And we felt that bringing our mowing, our bush hogging, and a lot of our tree work in-house just helps us be more responsive, and it's also more cost effective. So we actually do a lot in-house. The only time we really use contractors if you have tree work, maybe that is a little bit more than we can take on. So. But I think landscaping, contract landscaping, I find is really the missing link in our native plant picture, because I think there are certainly landscape designers. I think we have native plant nurseries where people can get native plants. And I think really where more work needs to be done is getting the landscape companies educated, because we find a lot of times they don't really know. Sometimes they don't recognize the native plants, and they get mowed down, or they get they get weeded out, and they are not always sure how to maintain them. So I think the landscaping end I think needs some more improvement.
Yeah. That's what you're working on.
We certainly, we're trying to educate the residents, and I don't know, maybe what a good way is to also get the landscape maintenance industry maybe more tuned into it. And I think it's a question of demand. I think the more residents have native plant gardens and demand maintenance, I think the more the landscape industry will catch up. So, yeah.